Shabbat Shalom and happy almost Passover. Pesach begins the evening of Saturday night, March 27th. So I'll begin by wishing all of you a very happy and healthy Pesach. I'm Rabbi Peter Kessler here in the Lehrman Chapel at Temple Ohev Shalom in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And I'm joined by our musical director, Christopher Prestia. And we're here to bring Shabbat right into your home. So let's begin by a cleansing breath. Let's take a nice deep breath, let go of any of the aggravation of the past week. And let's continue with a song. If you have your prayer book, we're on page 290, Matovu. La 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 la. Let's continue by lighting our Shabbat candles, page 120. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu Lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Page 126. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us, and to bring that vision to life. L'chadodi, page 138. L'chadodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. L'chadodi likrat kala, p'nei Shabbat nikabela. with Baruch Hu on page 146.
Baruch Hu es Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Page 148. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time, and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on the evening. Baruch ata Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. The Shema is on page 152. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha ve'shinantam levanecha ve'dibarta bam b'shiftecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shofpecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there, except by joining hands and marching together. Michamocha, page 158. Yam bam 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 bibi bam yam ba ba bim bam yam bam 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 bibi bam yam ba ba bim bam ay 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 yam ba ba bim bam ay 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 yam ba ba bim bam mi chamocha elim Adonai mi chamocha nedar bakodesh no rat Page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch ata Adonai hapurei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru, page 162.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. בני ובן בני ישראל, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וירפש, שבת וירפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם.
Let's continue now with Tefillah on page 166.
Adonai sefatai tipah, ufi agitehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Koneh HaKol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיח ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום, יהללוך סלה. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Let's continue together on page 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Page 175. You are with us in our prayer, our love and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we
find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'utcha levadcha be'yirat navod. Praised are you, Adonai our God. Give us strength for your service. And we continue with Shalom Rav, page 178. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon, lechol hashalom. Good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom. I know you're used to seeing me give my sermon from the lectern in the Lehrman Chapel, but today I'm sitting here in the sunroom of the Mildred and Irving Hand Memorial Library here at Temple Ohev Sholem, and hopefully someday soon you'll be able to come back to the library. You'll be able to bring all the books back that you've been holding on to for over a year, and I'll spend a day or two working on the shelves. But today I'm in the sunroom speaking to you as if I'm sitting in your living room, because my sermon is really more of a talk about something that I would say to you either in my living room or yours. And let me begin. Last year, No, 2 years ago, we sat down together with family and friends at the Seder, the timeless observance of the Exodus from Egypt. We sat in front of polished silver and drank from crystal goblets and ate from the best china in the house, removed from the cupboard for perhaps the only time in the year, to talk about freedom, slavery, and taking care of the disadvantaged. The most wonderful food of all was on the table, the delicacies we await every year, the chopped liver and matzo ball soup, the kugel or the gefilte fish. The favorites were prepared with the finest of ingredients and an extra dose of love. The Seder is the time we wait patiently to eat, even though we're already sitting at the table, as we hear the story of our escape to freedom from slavery year after year, generation after generation. Even though we may not be together for the second year in a row, some of us are lucky this year. If you are one of the luckier ones on this coming Saturday night, the ones who can sit safely at a beautiful Seder table, you are indeed blessed. Others still await a shot or two in the arm, but take it from me. When I was in my 20s and my friends were dying from a different plague, no one got a shot in the arm. The lucky ones lived, and the others just died. But this is not a downer sermon. It's a sermon about nostalgia, about remembering our past and sitting this year at a Seder in wonderment. Not in the wonderment of the magic of our freedom, but truly in wonderment, wondering what the world will be like next year at the Seder table. Isn't it nice how everyone's Seder table is a little different? Some families are more of the brisket variety rather than the chicken or turkey types, while some families like to have lamb on Passover to remember the story of the Paschal lamb. Some families are really big into gefilte fish, while others prefer matzah farfel in their soup instead of the traditional matzah ball. Some Seders are short, others are antagonizingly long, and some may even take on a special theme, such as a Seder to remember those lost in the Holocaust, or a Seder that focuses on social justice, or the Seders where we find an orange on the Seder plate to recognize that women make abundant strides for Judaism in places other than the kitchen. We've abandoned our Maxwell House Haggadot years ago, but I'm sure there are more than a few still floating around a house or two in uptown Harrisburg. Each Haggadah is different because each Jew is different, and each one of us observes a special part of the Seder that we take as our own. Hearing Hadgadyo may be our favorite part, perhaps, or searching for the Afikomen, or singing Dayenu. But whatever Haggadah you may be using, it's always wonderful to open it and find the crumbs of last year's matzah and remember what this year has been like. And then there are all the things that everyone enjoys at the Seder, no matter the meal, no matter the Haggadah at the Seder plate. Breaking the matzah at the beginning of the Seder, or the 4 questions, or the 4 cups of wine. Spilling drops of wine to symbolize the 10 plagues, and the extra Kiddush cup at the table, waiting for Elijah. Elijah is the guest, always invited, but never shows up. The harbinger of the Messianic age, the prophet whose appearance is supposed to tell us that our wait is over, that the age of the Messiah has arrived. We leave that extra cup of wine for him. We even open the door for him, hoping and waiting, joining together in song in anticipation of his appearance. We hope, we wait, and still, Elijah never arrives. Do you ever wonder why Elijah has never shown up at your Seder? Perhaps it's because we invite him, but we don't really do anything to ensure his arrival. After all, Elijah will only come if we bring about the Messianic age, if we do our part to make this Passover more meaningful than the last. Perhaps he never comes because he knows there is never a change at our Seder table. Perhaps Elijah knows that the turkey is always dry at the Greenbergs, the Rosensteins will have that same salty gefilte fish, and the Goldmans their familiar cannonball matzah soup. Perhaps Elijah knows our cooking better than we do. Perhaps Elijah knows our families better than we do. Or perhaps Elijah realized that even though we may change an ingredient in the chopped liver one year, or add a little spice to the charos at the next, or take the plunge and cook the brisket a few minutes longer, our attitudes about the Seder itself seldom change at all. We still wait longingly for the liturgy to end. We wait impatiently for our grandparents to stop their endless singing. We wait forever for the Seder meal to begin, but we never really wait for Elijah to come. We may hope that he comes, but we never work to make sure that he actually arrives. We just eat on those glorious plates, drink from those sparkling glasses, but forget about the people who have nothing to eat at a Seder table, or any table for that matter. So what can we do to bring Elijah to our Seder? We can't send a car service over to the airport to pick him up, or make sure that Uncle Harry leaves his house a little early to stop and bring him to be with the family, or even call Uber. It takes a little more effort to entice Elijah to make an appearance. A little more than opening the door for him, sparing a cup of wine, and leaving an extra place at the Seder table. So maybe we do need to do more than just leaving that extra wine glass. Some families go a step further and leave a chair for Elijah as well as a place setting. An empty chair at the table. A place for him to sit and rest his weary bones, if he has any. A real reason to entice him to stop by. If we really want to bring about the Messianic age, the time when no one is enslaved and everyone has something to eat, we might decide to leave a chair open for a particular person who isn't at the Seder. We can leave the chair open for a friend or family member that died this past year from COVID. If you don't know anyone who has died from our current plague, you are a lucky one indeed. Close to 3 million people worldwide have died from COVID. That's half the number of those who were murdered in the Holocaust. And that's a lot of people. And they serve as a reminder that our work isn't finished, that we still need to bring about the Messianic age. And because each of us has a meal with a different flavor and a Seder with different kinds of people, perhaps the chair could be left open for different kinds of people and for different reasons. 2 years ago, when we sat together with our families, we never heard of COVID-19. Some of us may have left a chair open for murdered Israelis or for the lost Palestinian children, or left a chair open for those who died from poverty or hunger. Some may have left an empty chair for those lost in the Holocaust, while others may have left an empty chair for those who died because of cancer, heart disease, or AIDS. Some may have left an empty chair for those who died because of the thoughtless actions of others, or an empty chair for those who died defending our freedom. And when we leave an empty chair open this year, a chair for the members of our congregation who have died from COVID, the empty chair with a place setting that won't have gefilte fish on it or catch a drop of spilled wine, this china plate that will go back into the cupboard unused or probably go into the dishwasher, even though it was never soiled. Those assembled at the table may ask the host or the hostess, who is this place set for? Or who else is coming? Or when it gets time to break the matzah at the beginning of the Seder, we'll ask, are we waiting for someone else? Or as they gaze at the empty chair,
Someone in the family will say, that chair belongs to someone who died in the Holocaust, or someone who died from AIDS, or the child who never had the chance to begin a life at all, a beloved family member who recently passed away, or perhaps Elijah. Maybe that chair does belong to Elijah after all. Maybe that chair belongs to the real reason why we are joining together to remember the Exodus from Egypt, to remember that not everyone in the world is free, that some of us still awaken each morning enslaved, chained to a life of poverty or pain, or chained to the shattered dreams of an empty life. Or maybe the chair is just empty because someone we loved has died. Maybe at the Seder table, leaving an empty chair is a good idea. An idea that each of one of us can use as a way to remember those missing from our lives, or a way to remember our obligation to work toward the Messianic age. Or simply a way to remember Elijah, the prophet who spends eternity hoping to find a place at a Seder table where people know the true meaning of Pesach, where they enjoy being together as a family, where they don't mind if the fish is too salty or the turkey too dry, when they love telling and retelling the story of the Exodus, and where they truly feel concern for those who are still enslaved. May we remember to save a place for Elijah at our Seder tables this year and next, and do our best to truly entice him to stop by and visit. May we stop and remember the stranger who is in our midst, not necessarily because we were strangers in the land of Egypt, but because as Jewish people, we tend to remember those that most people just forget. And when we remember forgotten souls, Elijah knows he has finally found the home where people truly understand that the Seder is a meaningful experience and find his place at our table. May this be God's will, and let us say Amen. Chag Sameach and Happy Passover.
Let's take a moment now to think about those of our family and our friends who are sick and in need of healing. The Mishaberach prayer is on page 371. In our midst, those who are working hard to make sure that we are all vaccinated as quickly as possible, and every one of our friends and family who may feel alone this Passover. Let's keep those people in our hearts and our minds as we enjoy the holiday. And let us say, Baruch atah Adonai rofeh hacholim. We praise you, Adonai, our God, who heals the sick, and we say Amen. We continue with Aleinu on page 586. Aleinu Mishabeach L'Adon HaKol Atem Gedula Le'Yosef Reshit Shelo Asanu Kigoye Haratzot V'lo Samanu Kemishpachot Ha'adama Shelo Sam Chilkenu Kahem V'Kor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלוכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. On this Shabbat, we remember the following people from our family and friends whose yahrzeits are being observed: Estelle Bartok, Marjorie Bryant, Morris Eister, Julia Feinschreiber, Eugene Fromm, Morris Goldman, Bernard Goodman, Phyllis Gordon, Louis Grass, George I. Katzman, Samuel Kuhn, Herbert Lang, Bernice Bunny Nippon, Gerald Jerry Nippon, Tony Repshus, Peggy Rose, Sidney Schleifer, Otis Sensel, Leo Talkov, Helen Rouse Uffberg, Richard Yaman. For those that have been named, or for those you may name within your own hearts, let's recite the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yomad divrach cheruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'galav izman kariv v'yimaru amen, yehesh shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam umei omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei kudsho barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran v'yama v'yimaru amen, yehesh shlomo rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen, v'seh shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all of us who mourn, and comfort to all who are bereaved, and we say amen. Our closing hymn is Adon Olam. It's found on page 625. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'ter Kol Yitzir Nivra, V'et Nasa, V'chefzecho, L'zamelech Shemo Nikra, Adon Olam, V'ya'ado, Avkid Ruchi, V'en Nisham V'ya'ira, Adon Olam, V'im Ruchi, Giviyati, Adon Olim, V'lo Ira, Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'ter Kol, Yitzir Nivrach, V'et Nasa, V'chefzecho, L'zamelech Shemo Nikra, Adon Olam, V'hu Eli, V'chago Ali, V'tzorchem Li B'yet Torah, Adon Olam, V'hu Nisi, U'manos Li, Manach Chazim B'yom Echad, Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'ter Kol, Yisir Nivrach, V'et Nasa, V'chefzecho, L'zamelech Shemo Nikra, Adon Olam. Now, before I ask God's blessings upon all of us, a couple of announcements. It's always a good idea to go to the Ohev Sholom website, www.ohevsholom.org. Remember, we spell Sholom differently. It's S-H-O-L-O-M. If you spell it like Shalom instead of Sholom, you'll end up in Florida. It's warm enough to stay here. But anyway, go on our website and you'll find all kinds of information about what's going on here in our congregation. I've decided to extend the adult ed program into the month of May this year, so we'll have a few more classes. You can find out all about adult ed on the website. Just click on Bulletin. Also, our Congregational Seder is going to take place Sunday, March 28th. Christopher and I are going to be leading it from the grand piano in my living room, and it will be great fun. So go on the website, please, click the green box that says Passover, and it will give you all the instructions you need for the Congregational Seder. If you're a member of Ohev Sholom, you're welcome to click on the link for the 30-minute Seder booklet, which is what we're going to be using, and use the passcode that you received in the letter that we sent you over the past few weeks. If you're not a member of Ohev Sholom, that's fine. If you want the 30-minute Seder, just click on the link to sending an email to the rabbi, me, and if you make a little donation to the congregation, I'll give you the password. So, a very, very warm, happy Passover to all of us. And now let me ask God's blessings on every one of us. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, our God and God of our mothers and fathers, grant us a Shabbat filled with joy and with rest, a Pesach filled with great food, family, friends, and maybe Zoom, and a week ahead that is blessed with good health and peace. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.